Previously on Modern Broadcast. Join me next week as we do a RetroX complete guide. Hello and welcome to Modern Broadcast. So in today's episode, we're finally going to be doing the RetroX setup guide. I initially made that first video 3 weeks ago, and I said I would be doing it next week, and yet here we are. Be sure to click that like, subscribe, and bell notifications to stay tuned to more gaming content. Let's get started. Alright, to start things off, I'm going to start on the desktop, and I'm going to be utilizing my Galaxy Tab 7 Plus in order for RetroX, so that allows for a micro SD card. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that micro SD card now, and we're going to create a folder in here. And let's just call this ROMs. Alright, now that we have that, we'll go ahead and open this up. And you see here on my desktop, I already have a RetroX folder. This folder already has some pre-compiled games. And it looks like we got Dreamcast, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Genesis, Nintendo 64, Nintendo, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, Sega CD, Super Nintendo, and TurboGrafx-16. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, and then I'm just going to drag them on over to our micro SD card that will go in the tablet. Once this finishes, we'll then head over to RetroX.tv. Alright, so here we are on RetroX.tv. I'll be sure to include a link down in the description below. And it says, play your favorite retro games on your Android or Raspberry Pi 3 device. That is something to take note, that the RetroX software only works on Android or Raspberry Pi 3 devices. It then has 2 links, one to try now, and one to purchase an activation code. So what we'll want to do is go ahead and click try now. And you are taken to the download page. Here on the download page, you can either just get RetroX for Android, or you can get RetroX for Raspberry Pi 3. RetroX is free to try, with full features for 5 days. Once that period ends, you can continue using it with some restrictions, but at any moment, you could use the blue button to purchase an activation code for your user account. This will give you the full features back again. So how much is RetroX? Let's go ahead and click on Purchase Your Activation Code. Now remember, you do have that 5-day free trial, so you do not need to do so. And here it says basically what you're paying for. So you pay for our technology to make retro gaming as easy as possible. We also provide some unique services like saving your game progress and our servers, so you can continue playing later on any of your devices. You may have heard of a feature like this from the Nintendo Switch, but we go further than that, providing support for more systems, and also you can use it on any of your devices. Note that we don't sell emulators nor games. Emulators are free to use and anyone can download and use them. We took these emulators to add the features required to be a RetroX supported emulator, but you can always get them in their original form for free. As for the games, users must provide them. We made it easy to add games from several sources like USB drives, cloud services such as Dropbox, Google Drive, and NAS devices. This is our current list of features available only in trial or activated accounts. Unlimited game collections. Free accounts are restricted to only 6 games. Cloud-based save states and memory cards. TV mode are presets for computer-based games. So definitely do the 5-day free trial before activating the code, just so that way you can kind of get a feel for it and see if it's for you. When it comes time to purchase, let's go ahead and click this Purchase Now button, and we want RetroX Purchase/Renew. And so we have 2 purchase options. We have an activation code for 1 year, which is $12.99, or we have one for 2 years of $22.99. So let's go ahead and start the install process. To get RetroX on your Android device, it's best to open the site from the actual device you're going to be putting it on. That way you don't have to transfer the APK file from your computer to your device. So let's go ahead and move over to the tablet. Alright, here I am on my Galaxy Tab 7 Plus, and we're going to go ahead and click on the Get RetroX for Android. Once that is done downloading, go here to Downloads, and do you want to install this app? Install. Install anyways. And here we have RetroX on the main screen here. So let's go ahead and click on this and boot it up. And you'll be greeted with RetroX can use your Google account to log in without a password. Press continue if you want to try that method. So I did use my Google account in order to sign up for RetroX. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Allow. So I have RetroX installed on a lot of my old devices, such as my old phones or old tablets. So it's saying that we can only use it on 6 devices. So I have to deactivate an older one in order to use it here. Say OK. Let's go ahead and get it off the Raspberry Pi 3, as I no longer have that. Alright, there's an update available for RetroX, and we have to install the update. Update now? Yes. For your security, your phone currently isn't allowed to install unknown apps. Allow from that source, and update. I like to say done and then reopen RetroX, as I find sometimes when I just push open, it doesn't quite work. Welcome to RetroX. It seems that you don't have added any game yet. We will help you to add your first games in the next step. Let's go ahead and click the orange button here to add games. You can add individual games or a complete folder from your device storage. At any time, you can add more games from settings, add games. Let's start. So let's go ahead and click add games now. And let's add a folder for one system. So first we need to select what system that we're adding. We'll start with Dreamcast. And I'm going to go to my drive storage FCA9-2A06, as that is my SD card. I'm going to scroll down to that ROMs folder we made and click on Dreamcast, which I labeled DC. Going to select this folder and scan now. So it recognized the game. And if we go to Dreamcast, all games, there it is. So you'll notice how after we first did the scan, it still didn't show up. It does take a second to download all the artwork for the game. You'll also download these little screenshots here, so that way you can get a little preview of the game before playing. And click this little add button in the corner. We're going to add folder for one system. Let's go ahead and do Nintendo 64. So let's select our Nintendo 64 folder, which is N64. And we have Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time in here. Select this folder and scan now. So if we click the double square button, we click on Nintendo 64. Click on all games, we see we have both here. Let's go ahead and click the add button, and let's just say we want to add a single game. Let's go ahead and go to Nintendo. So we see here I have my Metal Storm file, and I also have Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Let's say I don't want to add Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, I just want Metal Storm on RetroX. I can click on that one file there. And if we go to Nintendo, there it is. So let's go ahead and add the rest of our systems here. All right, I just finished adding quite a few more games to the RetroX. And now I need to connect my controller, so that way we can play. All right, now I got my controller connected. So here we have the Nintendo 64 and the Ocarina of Time. So if we click on these three dots over here, we could change some certain settings. So we could change the aspect ratio to be the 4:3, the 1:1 perfect square pixels, or stretch it to fit the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the 4:3 aspect ratio. And if we click on emulator options, we could change certain things. So we can change the resolution for 4:3. I'm going to go ahead and kick this up to 1080. And I'm going to leave everything else by default right now. Let's go ahead and go back. And we'll click play. So the first time we try to boot any game for a system, we'll get this notification basically stating RetroX will download some extra packages required to run this game. Let's go ahead and say download. And once it's done, we'll be greeted with this. So if we push start and select inside the game, we'll get options. Start in L2 would be to load state, and start in R2 to save state. And press any button to continue. So here we have the game booting up. So in the past, I already played Ocarina of Time on a RetroX, either on my phone or in that last video I did. And even though we did a fresh install of RetroX, it still remembers that save file. So that's really handy for if you lose your phone or if you upgrade your tablet, you can still continue where you left off in your games with a fresh install. Just gonna go ahead and push yes. And here we are at the beginning. So here we are, and I gotta say, it looks great. There's no sound hiccups. It just plays as if we're playing on the Nintendo 64. The only kind of different thing that's happening is I'm currently playing on a Sega Genesis controller. So it's a little wonky to kind of run around, but we're getting there. And I guess X is the attack button. But if I were to save this and quit the game, we would just pick up right where we left off. So I push start and select. We could save state, load state, or we can quit. So I'm going to go ahead and quit. And let's try something else. Let's try Dreamcast. So we see that we're using the Flycast emulator in 4:3. We go to emulator options. This one has quite a bit more things that we can change. The only thing that I'm going to do is just increase the internal resolution to ×2. Just makes it look a little bit better. And go ahead and hit play. So there's that message once more that we'll need to download some extra packages. Let's go ahead and say download. And the game booted up. So here it is running flawlessly. I gotta say, having RetroX kind of configure the emulator settings automatically, downloading anything that you may need. Some of these games require a BIOS in order to run properly. Dreamcast is notorious for kind of being finicky to get set up. Well, this was really easy. It was just adding the game file, telling RetroX where to find that game, and it does everything else for you. So it is a little odd playing on a Sega Genesis controller, but it does work. It's just figuring out what button is which. So two quick little side note things that I did not get to discuss in the actual tutorial video, but I feel are very important before you make a decision on RetroX. The first one being is that RetroX is required to have internet connection in order to work. So if you're out and about and you got your 4G, 5G, then great. If you lose reception, then you will not be able to play RetroX. The other thing is, if you don't have a controller connected, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. What it will do is it will put on-screen controls so that way you can play your games. By default, they're fairly big here on the tablet, but it is nice that you can play your games without having a controller connected, and that the on-screen controls are just kind of automatic. The last little tidbit that I have is you'll see on the sides we have the blue borders. We can actually change those by clicking on the three lines in the top left-hand corner. Go to settings. Here we can change a variety of settings within RetroX, but we're going to focus on display. Borders. Right now it's set to static background. Border type, I'm going to go ahead and change that to bezel. And now it should be The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Also, in these settings, if you end up purchasing RetroX, down here at the bottom is redeem activation code. That's where you'll put your code after purchasing, so that way you can enjoy the full features past the 5-day trial period. Let's go ahead and hit play with the bezels now on there. And as you can see, that is much more appealing. We got Link on the right and half of Majora's Mask on the left. That's pretty much all there is to it with RetroX. This works on many different platforms, as you can see here. And the community is very active. The developers work on RetroX constantly. It feels like every time I boot in, there's more bug fixes, there's more updates, there's more features, and even more systems are supposed to be in the works. So is RetroX for you? I think that really depends. If you're someone that's on the go often and you have an Android device, it might be worth it to you. It is a subscription service. $22.99 for every 2 years. That's not terrible, but it is a cost. One thing that I wish RetroX would add to their services is the ability to sign in to Retro Achievements. It's not a big deal, but I feel like it would just add another layer to modernize your retro collection. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Feel free to join the Discord. It's a great place to hang out, leave suggestions for future videos. I have a link down in the description below. See you next week, and take care.